happy Saturday morning to all of you who may be watching this morning. Each week, I've been sharing with you things that God has been teaching me during the last several months. You know, we're always in God's schoolhouse, but the last 3 or 4 months has been some of the greatest learning, and I've been telling some people privately some of the greatest thrills and most exciting times of my adult life and ministry. Been in ministry now 25 years, nearly 20 as a priest, and yet these last 4 months have just been a absolute eye-opener for me, an epiphany. And you may think, what do I mean by that? Well, one of the things that I've been talking to other people about, and I think I've been feeling this as well, is that, you know, with everything happening with COVID, it's driving us into our homes and, you know, wearing masks and staying away from people. One of the things I realize is because of that, you know, because we've had to shut down church for so long, and we can't have Wednesday nights, and I can't meet people on a regular basis like I used to. What has happened since then is that I now have time that I didn't normally have in the past. And because of that, that's given me a chance to actually exhale in a way that I really can spend time talking to people. For 20 years, 80 to 90% of my time, probably 80% of the time, has been spent on preaching and teaching and getting ready for that. You know, it takes me an enormous amount of time to be able to get it in here before I give it out there. And maybe I spent 20% of the time on pastoral ministry. Because of COVID, that has really reversed. It's completely upside down now, where, in fact, I may even dare say that 10% of my time may be on messages and preaching and teaching, and 90% on pastoral ministry. You know, if you told me that a year ago that I wouldn't be able to preach and teach on a regular basis, I would have been absolutely terrified, because it's something I love to do. And it's something that really excites me, and I cannot wait to think about presenting to God's people. And yet, what I've found, what has stunned me is that now that I'm spending so much more time in pastoral ministry talking to people, I'm finding and discovering I'm 10 times more effective. As I was saying a few weeks ago at church, that I'm not talking at people, I'm talking with people. So I'm learning from them just as much as they're learning from me. And we're really sharing the story of God in each other's lives in this tough season in our past. I'm learning stories that I've said people, because we were made in the image of God, we're just incredibly fascinating human beings. Each one of us has a story. And what I'm afraid of, and this is what I just want to speak into this just for a minute, is I've been talking to people, and I've since discovered I'm not the only one that feels like this. But because God has seemed to open this door, and He's given me the courage to be able to walk through these doors that He's opening, and it's the same thing as many of you. You know, before this, I was so busy. Life was so fast. I was going a million miles an hour, or as I've said before, 60 miles an hour for 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That I had a very difficult time noticing what was really important around me. And the illustration someone gave me this past week was that, you know, that we've been on the hamster wheel. You know, the little hamsters that run on that little wheel. It was just nonstop. And 4.5 months ago, God gave me the opportunity to get off the hamster wheel. And praise God, I'm better because of it. I never could have done it without Him. I could never have done it without a God intervention. And my fear is, as we return to some normalcy in the next 6 months, next year, is I don't know if I want to get back on the wheel. Life has been altered for me in a way that I feel so much more productive. And how I've been productive and the illustration I can use to you is that, you know, when Grace Sulak died 4 years ago, and I was visiting Emma in the hospital for weeks. I became again, I came particularly close to her, and then obviously Grace's twin sister Faith. They have become enormously important to me. What I discovered by accident, though, is the ministry I began with young people only began because God opened that opportunity for me to minister to them. And I would visit them, and they would invite their friends over, and I got to know them. And then this web of people I cared about grew, all from a tragedy. And I've since learned with COVID, and that's the extreme example with Emma and Faith, but COVID is largely the same in some sense, where because now I'm talking to people, calling 4 or 5 people a day on the phone, sometimes talking to people for up to 2 hours, and one of the questions I often ask them in the end is, listen, can you think of anybody that I can call? Do you think of anybody that would be helpful if I called and contacted them? And I'd say in half the cases, people give me a name and I call them. And so many people they're so appreciative, and they share what God's doing in their life. They share their doubts, they share their praises, they share where they see God moving. And it's been enormously rewarding for both of us. And Paul says in Galatians chapter 6, I believe it's verse 10, as God presents the opportunities, let us do good for all people, especially to the family of believers. And that is a pact-filled verse, because as the opportunity presents itself, which means there will be times in our lives where God will present an opportunity. It's having the wisdom and the discernment and the courage to walk through those doors when God opens them for us. And I would say to you, just like with me, there's all kind of opportunities that God is opening for you right now. You just have to look for them, and you got to have the courage to walk through them. The other thing, when it says not just an opportunity, but let us do good to all those who come in contact with us, that is really a great commission to go out and reach out to the people, those lives who move near our own, to be able to touch those. And Paul says, especially to those that are family of believers. And what I'm going to be addressing on Sunday is, it's talking about family. Family is not only our blood, but it's those who can become our blood. And should we have the wisdom and the courage to walk through those doors, we will discover a family we didn't even know we had. Just like I discovered with Emma and Faith. And since that time, all these other people that have become incredibly close to you, many of you may be watching it this morning, are one of those people. So I just want to encourage you here in this incredibly difficult season that it may be very difficult, but God is opening doors for us to walk through, and we have to be able to have the courage and the wisdom and the discernment to walk through those doors. Let us not grow weary of doing good. Let us take the opportunities that God gives us and to do good for all people, especially to those who are in the family of believers. That's my prayer for you. I hope to see you soon, either this week at the Stork campus, or next week I'll be out at the chapel and the Buckwalk to the Cross School service. But I'm looking forward to seeing all of you. I miss you. It's been great catching up with a lot of you, and I'm looking forward to calling some of you on the phone over the next several weeks. With 2,400 congregants, it takes a while, but anyway, you're my prayers, and I will see you soon.